Hey, so Hannah here, and I have the wonderful Sarah and Gully, both Krav Maga instructors in the UK. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves a little bit more in detail. So I'll hand over to Sarah first. Sarah, if you'd like to say hello and stuff.
Hello. Hi, Hannah. Thanks for having me. This is amazing. Yes, my name is Sarah Brendlor. I feel like I'm on some kind of therapy group, talking about myself here, but I think we know we are in some kind of therapy group, don't we? My name is Sarah. I am a Krav Maga coach. Well, I actually describe myself as a self-defense coach, and I use the principles of Krav Maga. I have been training personally. Well, I always say this, is I started when my son was just over 6 months old, and well, he's going to be 17 tomorrow. So that's how long I've been training, and I've probably been teaching full-time. I am a full-time instructor for coming up to about 14 years now. So do you want me to continue, tell where I teach, or just a bit of a background to start?
Where are you teaching?
I'm based in central London, so I'm with one of the oldest, in fact, the first established UK Krav Maga school. I'm part of them. I never used to teach with them originally. I was on my own, basically, working, teaching courses, short courses actually, because I worked on my own. I wanted to have something with a beginning and an end, really. So mixed adult classes and women only classes, and I got absorbed by London Krav Maga about 6 years ago. So again, I teach a mixed range of, I manage the women's part of the training and all the youth, but I'm also, of course, an instructor that teaches everybody, basically. And I can add, I'm also the KMG-UK lead for the women's division, for basically, because I think I only got it because I'm the oldest and I've done the job the longest. I've got more t-shirts than anyone else. And that's it. So yeah, I'm a full-time instructor. My background, I actually worked in advertising before I switched to this. So communication, selling you things that you need to believe in. So still the same thing. And my roots in, I worked in sort of training, circuit training, working with weights and gyms and kettlebells, but I've dropped that. So I've got a background in teaching generally, but more I'm all about teaching people to defend themselves, to feel safer. That's it. Amazing. That's me. I'm going to let Gully come in, otherwise it could be the Sarah show.
Hi everybody, hi Sarah and Hannah, thank you for doing this. So I'm Gully, or Gulshen, or Gully now as everybody knows me. I'm a baby compared to Sarah, not in age, but certainly in experience. So I've been doing Krav for 6 years now, and last year I started my own school, Krav. So originally I was learning in a mixed club, so I had a couple of different clubs that I was with. And then last year started my own women's only club after qualifying as an instructor. So my club's based in West Midlands in Solihull, and it's called Strike Back Self-Defence for Women. And I teach just specifically women and girls. So all our teaching is based just around women and girls. We don't have any, so it's a women's only club. We don't have any men, certainly at the moment. Although I help teach at another mixed club, which was my former club, Krav Mayhem. So I do help teach there. So I still have some sort of input with men and blokes, and keep my hand in there. But otherwise, yeah, just teaching with Strike Back. So I started 6 years ago because my background's a pharmacist. So my actual job for 20 odd years has been as a pharmacist. And I was looking at the time for somewhere to learn some sort of self-defense. I had 2 little boys, so I was often out late at night doing sort of football clubs and stuff with them. And I felt quite vulnerable. I felt I needed something so that and sort of just with the way crime is, etc., late nights, driving. If I needed to protect myself somewhere, could I be able to protect myself and my 2 little boys? And with my profession as a pharmacist, I'd had a few incidences with just general working late. I was attacked once in a car park late at night by one of the drug addicts who dragged me backwards in a car park. And I think that was one of the turning points where I thought, actually, if this ever happened again, I was with my boys, would I know what to do? And I think that for me, that was the pivotal moment where I thought I need to learn something. So having looked at everything that was out there, Krav sort of stuck out a little bit. I went along to the first class, which was a mixed class. And I loved the concept of what Krav was and how quickly you could pick things up. So that was my sort of starting journey. And that also probably formed one of the reasons, and we'll speak about it later, I'm sure, why I then turned to teaching women only, having been and only learned at a mixed class. So yeah, so that's a little bit about my background. So a little bit of experience, bad experience with being attacked, being vulnerable as a woman. And I'm only 5 foot, so being a little woman seen as an easy target. Not a weak woman, but just somebody who's perceived as being an easy target. Subsequently, there's been a few more incidences, and don't misjudge a small woman. So
no.
Absolutely. So that's changed a lot. So I think the way people perceive you is very different. So your physical attributions, how you look. So yeah, so that's me in a nutshell. So,
lovely. Well, yeah, I mean, that sounds pretty scary, to be honest, being attacked. And I don't think, you know, that's a lot of people start because they don't know what would happen if they were. A lot of the time it's a kind of what would happen if, where you've obviously had the experience of it happening. So obviously glad that you are, you know, it didn't go to a really horrible place, but obviously that must have been really, really scary for you. But at the same time, it's allowed you now to, like you say, go on to this path where you teach self-defense, you help empower other people, you, like you say, confidence around the size. I mean, we're all, you know, none of us are giant tall women. We're all, you know, on the side, and it can be quite, like you say, people do look at you, you know, as if you are an easy victim, I guess, sometimes. And to know inside that actually, I think Krav Maga can be quite empowering, because like you say, it's not necessarily complex, but it's what's behind it, and the mentality and the strength that you kind of produce from within to be able to fight for yourself, you know, and that's what it kind of gives you, is that confidence that, yeah, you can do it, but also you're worth doing it, you know, you're worth fighting for. So
I think the other thing, I mean, we're very fortunate that, I don't come from a martial arts background, but I would say I've seen a lot of fights, basically, which sounds, I'm not going to go into that, but again, growing up in clubland in London, and again, I think, Gully, like you say, as a woman, whatever the size, and of course, you know, we know from what we teach that we look at whoever we teach, whoever you are, it's about teaching and working with your limitations, that women do face, you know, face more issues when people come to our classes. I think the resounding goal is that they want to have less fear. That's the most important thing, and that's something that, you know, if we have a room of people, we know we can talk about, you know, has this ever, people say, oh no, I've never, you know, and I'm talking about women specifically, nothing's ever happened to me, I'm fine. And then suddenly you go, but has this ever happened? And they go, oh yeah, I worked with someone, or I was in a bar, or, you know, we've all got some awful incidents, or again, in your case, a really horrific attack that thankfully you survived. But we've all got stories to tell, which are probably some of the reasons that we're here, you know. And I think if I was on the psychologist's couch, I'd be saying, I want to make people safer and stronger, and I want people to stop this, you know. And how can I do that as a parent? I can bring up my son to be as nice as possible, and also I can teach people to be able to stand up for themselves verbally and physically. But again, it's that idea that, you know, that there are more issues that we may face.
I think there's that saying, isn't there, every woman, if not herself, knows somebody who's been in a situation where they felt unsafe or vulnerable, or even as far as attack. I don't think there's a woman that walks this earth that doesn't know of somebody. And it's surprisingly common, isn't it? It's not as uncommon as we think. And
to add, men, you know, we teach everybody. That is the most important thing. But there are important, again, when I first started training in Krav Maga, there were not that many women. It was roots were in the military, so therefore it didn't really attract I mean, it was quite a maverick system anyway. So there wasn't that, it was new, full stop. So when I came to the class, there were very few of me. And the response was whenever I trained, first of all, if I wanted to train with someone, it was like being the last to be picked on the football team when you were a kid. And then no one, and then it was the go easy on her kind of thing. And I'm like, wow, I'm not going to go easy on you, pal. And then when you know, again, it's that other thing about being taken seriously, which is a whole another subject. But back then it was a little different. Of course, now I'm pleased to say things are changing. The system is changing. The more women come to train Krav Maga, there are more instructors like yourselves, which is absolutely, I want more of us. That's my goal. But to recognize that when we step on the mats, that when we teach people, we are not, yes, we are, there are reasons why we have women only classes, but you know, you can walk into another class and no one, and there's no women there, there's men. We don't go, is this a men only class? But we teach people, first of all, we do a risk assessment. What are your issues that you will face? We do the same thing with the kids' classes. We look at their size. We teach people to work with their own limitations, whoever you are. And that's the bottom line. That's the thing. Physical, verbal, mental, you know, we are giving you solutions to problems that you will face.
Yeah, and I think that's a really, what you just said, it is a risk assessment based on who's in front of you, because what would work for me wouldn't necessarily work for you or you. You know, we're very different. We're built differently, we move differently, and that, I mean, that's the idea behind self-defense, isn't it? That it's a system that works for everybody. So having that, you know, I have been to classes before, not within the Krav Maga world that we run in, but it's like, oh, this is the thing and this will work. It's like, no, I'm telling you it won't work. I'm telling you now, I can't, you know, and it's not because I haven't practiced. I'm telling you because this person is 6'8", I'm 5'4", their face is way too far away for me to hit. The only option I'm going to have is to go lower rather than higher on this instance, you know, but they're adamant and that you will go higher, and it's like, it's not going to work. And having that ability to, you know, I've got people in my class from all different sizes. I've got people, you know, from the mixed class, but even in the women's class, you know, there's just such a vast, you know, range. And it's like, oh, this doesn't work. It's like, okay, we'll adapt it then. We'll look at what does work, what would work for you in that situation. Because the main thing is we need to keep you safe. Not that you have to do it a specific way because that's what's written or that's what I'm saying. Okay, how do we change this to work for you as an individual so that you stay safe? And that's what part of, I think, it has, you know, again, like I say, I have been in classes before, and not talking about Krav necessarily, but in previous stuff where it's like, you need to make this work, and I'm like, well, hang on a second, I'm telling you, it's right now it's not working, and it's going to probably cost me my life if I tried to put this into real life against somebody this size.
It's about being a good coach, isn't it? Really? You know,
and
that's the thing.
Recognizing it's that recognize, and maybe as women we've been there, like you said, Hannah, you've been in clubs where, so you're aware that that's a problem that exists. And I think sometimes the issue is the clubs that we're not going to, they don't recognize that issue. The very first club where I started learning, which will remain nameless, but the very first one I started at, there was one other girl there and myself when I walked. So the very first day I walked in, she wasn't there at the first lesson. And it was 15, I kid you not, 5'10" plus white blokes who most of them had never seen a little brown girl before, which is what I am. Certainly not seen a hijabi girl before. And they didn't know what to do with me. It was the hilarity on one side, it was so intimidating. And I remember certainly for the next, I mean, I'm a pretty confident, you know, I'm a pharmacist, I'm a professional, so I deal with the public. But I spent the next 3 months going to the lessons. I used to sit in the car for about 10 minutes and psych my confidence up to walk back into this class. And I think when I opened my club, it was one of the reasons I thought I'd never want any woman to be in that place again. But if there were issues or if I had confidence issues, I would never have gone back to that second class. But I kid you not, for 3 months, I used to sit in the car park, deep breaths and walk back in. And it was like, you're that little person sitting on the bench that nobody wants to partner with because they don't know what to do with you. And they don't know how so that either the punches were too soft and they just treated me like, yeah, into it. Or they were so hard they threw you to the other side of the room. So there was just no middle ground. And the instructor himself, who was 6 foot, didn't know how to deal with that. It was just, it was, I mean, thankfully that's changed, and most clubs have a lot more women in, and it's a lot more balanced. And thankfully most clubs have got, you know, they view it differently now. But certainly at the time when I started, and that was only 6 years ago, it was very, very different. And it wasn't a pleasant training place to go. If it wasn't for my sheer stubbornness and my husband kicking me out every sort of Monday evening saying, you're going, maybe I wouldn't have gone. And maybe this, you know, I wouldn't be where I am before. And absolutely this story would never have been told. But it's a place. And that for me, the women's only things that we teach often is, it's that safe place, isn't it? Without judgment. You can be, and I think because we've been there, we view it as it's a place where nobody will judge you. Everything is okay, whoever you are, your size, your fitness, your stat, doesn't matter. You are here to learn self-defense, and that's what we will do for you. It's a very different way of thinking, I think. And unfortunately, I think there are still clubs out there that do exist that are very sort of that oriented, aren't they?
Yeah, but they're not, you know.
Sorry, Sarah. I think my internet. 1 second. Let me just check my connection. Bear with me 1 second. I'll make sure I'm on the right one because it keeps just blipping just ever so slightly. So I'm like,
we're fine. You've been constant. We've not had any
okay,
errors.
That's all right. I think it just switched. I've got 2 networks. I think that's all right. It's back. Don't worry. Carry on. Sorry, Sarah. You go.
No, I thought, you know, the concept of the safe place is interesting because as a coach that teaches, I work with a lot of women specifically that have experienced violence, and I'm talking about working with specific groups, not that people that have come to my general classes. We have rules and regulations, but by the way, like we do in all our classes, we have a duty of care to keep our students safe. We know it's one of the most oddest things that we are teaching people to be, if necessary, as aggressive as possible. But of course, we have to keep everybody safe and injury-free in class. So it's a really strange but doable. By the way, it's a doable, it's achievable thing to do. But one of my team, my male team, he said to another student, a guy that said, "Why are there women-only classes?" This kind of thing. Why don't we get that? And to which he just turned to him and said, "It's a safe place. Move on." Okay, which is the best response, because why do we have them? Is because, again, like I said to you, there are reasons why women, for religious reasons, we teach a number of women that want to train on their own, that they feel comfortable. They have been in a situation where they find it very difficult to train with men. So yeah, it is a safe place. Do I think, and again, this is something that Hannah, I think you may want to discuss, is women training on their own a soft option? And I'm going to answer that right now. Do I think it's a weaker option? Is no, categorically not, in the same way that I believe teaching kids, to defend themselves, which they do damn well without having being hit constantly by a grown man. Do I think women can defend themselves? As a coach, I teach my students, whoever they are, to be better than me. That's the most important thing. I teach them to recognize problems and deal with them accordingly. That means doing what is appropriate then. Do they need someone much bigger than them? Of course, some people like to do that because it's a confidence thing. It is a confidence thing. Do I think it's necessary? No, I don't. And I think the people that question the validity, is that the right word, of women training on their own, don't understand violence against women and don't understand how we teach. Because as we know, the idea, the fear of the dark stranger attacking you is less than 10%. That most attacks against women are from someone they know, and therefore they happen in a different way, and we have to recognize and teach that accordingly. So yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
I went on a...
No, that was actually going to be my next question was actually around that. And I think what you've raised there is, I mean, something you probably do this as well. Something I talk a lot about in my women's only class is boundaries. You know, understanding the power of no, and not having to explain yourself. You know, and again, I think this comes from a lot from childhood, perhaps being told to be people pleasers. You know, we're told to say we don't want to hurt people's feelings, do this, do that, don't do this, be kind and stuff. And as a result, we lose that ability to have boundaries in place from a young age, from as we get older. And a lot of it is around, like you say, you know, amount of people I've spoken to that have been in situations where it's a friend or somebody they've known has put them in an awkward situation and they've not felt that they could say no, or they've not felt that they could.
I'm sorry about that.
That's all right.
I saw that again.
I go fast. And I was like,
it's recording a podcast. It's all right. It's coming back.
Yeah. And you know that. And it's not even, sometimes it's not even the physical boundaries, it's that ability to say no and to say, and confidently, because the fear of hurting somebody else's feelings,
Yes.
you know, which is actually, you know, unpicking that kind of the mental side of it all is actually, well, where do you sit in this then in terms of feelings? How do you fit in terms of, you know, if you're worried about the other person's feelings and you're going to put yourself, you know, and understanding all the psychology behind it, it doesn't, self-defense isn't always about the hitting and the striking and the, you know, it's the mental side as well, which is, again, you know, like you say, we've all been in situations and had stuff happen. And a lot of it is actually, it could have stopped by the mental side of saying no, being confident, actually, this isn't okay. I'm going to use my voice. I'm going to talk about this. But I think, you know, there's so many sides to self-defense. Well, I that's how I view it anyway. The self-defense is huge.
That's what we teach. We teach, you know, and we're very fortunate. We have a system that teaches us. We have the physical. We teach the physical skills, the technical skills, the tactical, when to do it, and then the mindset, the mental skills. So that is dealing with all the stuff that's happening around you when you're under stress. So that's being cool. And the importance of recognizing what people say, the things that they say, how that is, that could be a hook, it could be an invitation, how people use charm, how people use, you know, rudeness and anger to get what they want or to find out more about you. So, you know, and we teach our students, whether it's there, and I always say this, I've been teaching a lot of my students when we're dealing with racism, for example, is there is a time to speak up and there is a time to shut up. But we teach students to, you know, being nice is not about being weak. And I think as a parent, I'm still going to bring my kid up to be polite and say, yes, please. But they're also, you know, it's recognizing different boundaries. And actually, I come from, again, and I think education is really important because I want my kids, and I know all my friends that have daughters don't bring their daughters up to be housewives. They bring them up to be strong. And you know yourself, you're a mother of a daughter. You don't want you bring your kid up to be strong and independent. I have spoken to a few younger people that sort of recirculate these ideas that of women should be a certain way, and that bothers me. They're rehashing them, and I think, for God's sake, don't undo all the work that we are doing. It's important for us to all to lead the way in our own way, and that's it. It drives me mad.
I think the boundary, the whole thing with boundaries, and we know sitting where we are now what boundaries are and where that boundary is, and absolutely in that situation what we would, and that's what we teach, you know, certainly the girls and the women, and the irony of this. And so when going back to 6 years ago when I started that first school, it sounds like your ultimate nightmare class. There was a bloke in this class who homed in on me from my very first lesson, and we just happened to end up being partners together on this first lesson. And for the next month, he hit on me every session I went in. So sending women who, so again, like I said, so I'm a confident woman in the sense that, you know, I've had a professional background, I deal with members of the public all the time. But here I was in this really alien environment, and I've got this bloke every session hitting on me. I kid you not. It was just, I look back at it now and think how I didn't punch him in the face for that session. I don't know. But
hats
you're
off to you.
suddenly you're put in this situation where you think, and you second guess yourself, don't we? And I teach this to my girls: don't second guess yourself. If your gut instinct tells you something is wrong, it is damn wrong, and you know, trust your gut instinct. But as a grown woman, I'm second guessing myself every session I went in, and he'd do things like wait by the car, and the irony is he knew I was married and he was married, but he was still hitting on it, and he obviously honed in on something on me not feeling as confident or not looking. And we were doing some sort of groundwork. Groundwork's the irony. We were doing groundwork, and he's my partner, and he's making really inappropriate remarks in this groundwork. And yet I didn't have the confidence to speak to my instructor at the time to say this is going on. And for me now doing women's classes, I think for any other woman who's possibly those were triggers or situations, what an awful place to be in. And when we say the importance of women's classes, Sarah, you're saying, you know, do we soften our women's classes? Are they important? Those are the very, very reasons why women's only classes are important. Because if that was somebody who had triggers with that or had a background, and you've just landed her on her very first session in the worst possible scenario that you could ever imagine. And that's why for me now, and I think these are the damn reasons. So for everybody that says, well, why do we need women's classes? These are the reasons we need women's classes. So we're not putting the very women that need to learn this in a place where they'll never come back again and just be put off from it, never learn.
But they've been subjected to what they've kind of come to learn against, you know.
Absolutely. And for you, Gully, I think it's that thing is we've all been in those situations where we think, and I had a similar situation with an instructor who's no longer an instructor anymore, surprisingly, is that I was up against one of his students and we were sparring, and he kicked me. And I thought, hold on a minute, this is not right. This is right. The whole fight changed. It was a bit more full on. But it wasn't the thing about that. I could cope with that. My brain went through a sudden adjustment of, okay, here we go, Sarah, let's do this. But the instructor let it happen. Okay. And it's that thing for you, in a way, it's like, why did you not do this? Because how can he let it happen? How can this happen? Am I going mad? Do I believe that this is allowed to happen? And you think all of us know that ain't happening on my watch. You know, yes. I watch my students. This is a safe, as I said, whoever you are, it's a safe place. If you've been through some kind of, if there are things that you are scared of or nervous of, you are certainly not going to meet them in on my mat. However, we may talk about them, we deal with them, but you deal with them in an appropriate way. Do I plunge it reminds me of when my dad taught me to swim. His way of teaching us to swim was to throw us in the pool and go swim. I would not, that's not my methods of teaching, you know, but it's that kind of thing, like, Gully, is this real? He's doing it again. Am I nuts?
Yeah, you do. I mean, and that's the thing, as women, we set, and we shouldn't, but we do. We second guess ourselves and think, "Am I reading this right?" And and it's something I said. Like I said, we say to the girls, "Trust your gut instinct. If it doesn't feel right, it isn't right." Absolutely. But as a grown woman, and you think, "Am I reading?" And subsequently, things happen and things like, and you think, "Really? No, that didn't happen." So, I mean, credit to the instructor who was running at the time. It was a big class, and there's no reason at all why he would have read that there was something overt going on. And I certainly didn't say it. But I think then that's the other thing. I think the issue not the issue, but I think often a problem with male instructors is if you were a 6 foot plus instructor, you have never been in a vulnerable position, if I'm honest. You have never been harassed or never been spoken to in that sort of way. So why would you even think that there would be a problem there? And I think I think that is the value of a female instructor or a woman instructor. We've probably experienced most things or seen most things or heard of most things or know somebody who has. So we pick up on those signals way better and way quicker than maybe our intuition maybe is different to what, because like you said, if you're a 6 foot plus or a 5'10" plus instructor, big built, when would you ever experience that? So your vision and like you said, Hannah, when you say about when your instructors are saying, yeah, punch somebody in the face, but as a 5'0" or a 5'2" woman, you know your punches are going to reach that because that's you, that's your experience. But if your 6'+ instructor has never experienced that, how would he even read that or know? Mm. And for me, the value of women instructors or what we teach is right there. It's that intuition, it's that knowing, it's that experience, which often male instructors haven't got or haven't found.
No, but but it does open up a whole area to think, well, hold on a minute. If I believe that being those instructors that you're referring to can't do what I do, does that mean I can't do what they do? Because I believe as an instructor, and because we all know good male instructors that pick up on. And the thing is, it's the nuances in the classes that people miss. Is that I understand that the issues, and maybe, okay, I can say, look, I grew up and I saw a lot of violence and recognize the different issues that we can say, we can be confronted with whoever we are, that we know that there are some male instructors that can do the same too. That's
absolutely.
The issue is, though, it's early days. And as you say, thankfully, we need more of us and to pave the way and to recognize the importance, because I think the whole area is still pretty new, really. And understanding, I mean, the one thing is that I have a lot of female students that come to me from other classes and I don't want to use the word complain, but to say things that have happened in class. I certainly have a lot of students that come to me. They know, when I ask them, do they feel any different in the female classes with regards to the training, they say no. The training is still the same, but they know that they get results. They know that we understand the issues, but they don't have to deal with those nuances, which are very difficult. And we can talk about them in the office, in any environment, really. When a coach says, when you are defending your wife, oh man, I wish I had a wife. That's all I can say. But that's another. But it's like, for God's sake, what? And when I've mentioned it to the other instructors, they've said to me, well, what would I say then? And I'm like, are you kidding? Partner, other half. What? We must think about. We must be more. I am not. I don't want to use woke and all that kind of stuff. It's just about thinking about who's standing in front of you. That's all. That's all. Be a good business person.
And something as well, like something I consider as being a woman, is there are certain times in the month when my training changes. Okay, my body goes through certain things as a woman, and being able to sometimes have somebody that I can turn to when they say, why aren't you doing the 50 push-ups I've just told you to do? I'm like, because actually right now, I'm going through my monthly cycle and my body can't do the same stuff. I'm actually, I get headaches. I'm not feeling very well. It really does impact me. And my training, for example, completely changes. And to have that space to say to somebody, and the world is changing and we can have these more open conversations, but that is a great thing for my women, is they turn around and they say stuff to me and they know that I'm going to go, okay, great. No worries. I can adapt for you because I completely understand what you're going through. Because, for me, it's a big thing. It wipes me out and it is not a nice time. I can't perform. I'm clumsy. I have headaches. I feel very, very sick. It's just not a good time. So it massively impacts. So, and to be called out in class, if you go to classes, and you do these drills where it's like, first one to 50 is the winner, the last one to do this. And, and you're there going, well, I might as well go home then, because there's no chance in me, to have that space is really important as well. So someone can say, actually, do you know what? And that for me has been a big thing, is creating that. And I know it's helped a lot of people because they feel comfortable to say, do you know what, I'm feeling a little bit off key because of this. And it helps, I think, because then all of a sudden you can adjust things to suit. And I know for me that's a big thing, is to have that, because it has, when you're doing groundwork and stuff like that, and you're feeling very uncomfortable in yourself, it's just not a nice time. It could just be me that's experienced this, and I've often felt quite it's had a big impact.
Obviously,
yeah.
you suffer with your monthly cycles. I've never had them so that they've affected Krav Maga training. Weight training and physical training I would adjust. The one thing I've always said about training with Krav Maga generally is adrenaline is the wonder of all. So that no matter how crap I feel when I walk in, and once I've started, everything is wonderful, and then I stop, and then I feel miserable again afterwards. But I think the most important thing, as you're saying, is we are the person. As a coach, you stand in front of people, and your students trust you, and being able to trust you. And again, and by the way, if I teach in the mixed classes, the guys are the same. They won't obviously come to me about their cycles, but they talk to me about things that they may not feel comfortable talking to the other instructors about. Yeah. And they've said to me, I don't know why I'm telling you this, but, and the same thing with the women, they will come. So it's about being, and I think as a coach, we must be, they come to our classes to trust, to believe in what we are going to teach them, things that work, and keep them safe. And I as you ladies know, I teach these camps, so they're amazing events which you're both coming to, and I would like you both to teach at as well. But we'll talk about that another time. And we had a very, very big sort of a close quarter drill at the end of the camp. And one of my students that came along, she looked at me and she was like, "Oh, I don't think I can do it." And I said, "You can do this." And she went, "Right." And she said, afterwards, she said, "Sarah said I could do it, so I trusted her." And I did it. Yeah. I knew she wouldn't let me do something that was going to die in, basically. And Hannah, that is what you're saying. Your students can tell you anything. They feel comfortable. You're not going to judge them, and you're going to look after them. And actually, you're going to teach them some good stuff too, without all the BS that can attach to it.
I think the common misconception, we've touched on it before, are our women's classes pink and fluffy? Yes. And
I'm just going to get my charger. Keep talking. I'm just going to grab my charger. Okay, keep going. I'll hear you in the background, I promise.
If you've ever been to one of Sarah's camps, pink and fluffy it ain't, because we get a beat down like I've never had in any mixed class. And it's the best place ever. And it goes back to our classes for delicate little flowers. You're pink and fluffy. No, they're fluffy. Well, not. No. We get you fit, we beat you down, and we teach you no different. So you've got your limitations, and we adapt for those limitations, but they're not any softer, and they're certainly not any kinder to you than a mixed class or male only class. But what they are is, it's a safe place, isn't it? It's a place where it's that concept, what happens in Fight Club stays in Fight Club. So whatever you say in confidence in our class, and that's a place where the women with other women can come and say, whether it's been a bad day, and then slowly over time, any experiences they want to talk about, it's a safe place. And suddenly you'll find there's 3 other women in the room that have been through that experience. Yes. And to be able to talk about it and have other people around that do understand it, it gives you that leap of confidence, and it takes you to the another level to where you were.
But to add to what you're saying, Gully, is this, that whatever the beat downs that you talk about, which is slight exaggeration, it is relevant. You come to the classes, you would not be put through anything just for the sake of, our roots are in the military, but that's where they end, is that you're not being punished. You're not made to do something just for the sake of it. I'm, as a coach, I'm not doing something that I believe you can't do. It is, everything there is for the purpose. I actually have a question. But can I put my question to you, which is relevant to all this, is if we think about all this stuff that we're doing, what does it mean to, and I have an answer to this, but what does it mean to you to be a woman? That is the important thing. That is you have a minute to think about it and then give me your answer. Hannah, I love that gazing off look that you've
what does it mean? I'm like,
so
she's
here's the thing
put me
is,
on the spot.
if you don't mind, I'm gonna answer. I'm gonna start this, right? And the reason why is I was asked this question, and I thought, man, I kept changing my mind about the answer, right? I was like, oh no, I'm this and that, and then I realized actually that was the answer, is that we can wear many hats. I can be caring, I can be nurturing, I can be all delicate, and actually that's a crazy word, because my son would laugh if I use that word. But you know, I can be nurturing, and I can be all the classic things, but I can be tough and I can be strong, and that doesn't compromise any of the other things. And I think that's the important thing about teaching, is you come to class, you can protect yourself and your family, you can be the best, I'm going to you can be tough and strong, but that doesn't make you less in any other place. And I think that for me is the important thing, is we can do all of that. It's not having it all. It's not about anything to do with that.
No.
It's about recognizing I'm not now dragging my knuckles on the floor or anything. It's about being all of the above.
And I mean, I think, you know, absolutely. I think for me, being kind and compassionate and still being strong and fierce all at the same time, you know, and that's, you know, I don't kind of see myself as being any less womanly because I teach Krav Maga, or I go out and do strength training, or I enjoy, you know, a bit of sparring. I don't think that turns me more into a man. I'm more manly than I'm womanly. No, I'm womanly because, you know, I'm a mum. I'm you know, I'm a mom. I enjoy lots of different things. Again, I don't have one hat. I'm not one size fits all. I'm kind, compassionate, but at the same time, I'll have my boundaries. I'll be fierce. I'll stand up for myself when I need to. And I think for me, being a woman is being true to myself. Who am I? And following, and that's what it is. You know what? Again, I guess the idea is someone somewhere has painted a picture of what a woman should be at some point, but that's just somebody else's opinion.
We have to taunt that up, because there is no someone that's gone. That's the thing. I blame the Victorians, by the way, for a lot of that. And anybody says it, you know, we go, no, let's just get on with it. I haven't got time to discuss that. I'm too busy. You know, I've got to teach and I've got to cook and leave me alone. Let me do my things. You know, that's it, really.
No, yeah, I totally agree. But everything you both said, it's wearing so many hats, isn't it? Which are multitasking. You don't do multitask because we do it better than anybody else. And it's being feminine the days I want it, being able to put on my pink gloves, but still be fierce and taken seriously, you know. And the days I want to wear my black venoms, we have to wear my black venoms, but not be judged for it. So it's a multitude of everything. And we're all mums, aren't we? And I've got 2 little boys, and it's teaching my boys in a way as well what their perception, or what they see in society, what people perceive women as. And I'm a woman that is everything. You can be nurturing, and you can be feminine, and you can be kind and compassionate, but you can also be fiercely strong and determined and ambitious, and it's not wanting it all. Sarah, I agree with you. It's not wanting it all, but it's wanting enough that makes you enough. And teaching young girls that come into our classes that you can be all of it, and being that role model to these girls. So, and often if they come from backgrounds where it's a very stereotypical or very cultured, where this is, to suddenly see a role model that my coach or my instructor is able to do this, and even sort of your size, and you know, I often say to my students, at 5 foot, if I can do this, you can do this. And my teenage students often are taller than me and bigger than me anyway, but it's to teach them that your size and your stature and your what you are and your colour and everything, there's no limitations. There is no limit to what you can do as a woman. So don't put limitations on yourself that sort of society is putting on you.
Absolutely. But Gully, I bet you have your big teenage students, or any of your students that come up to you and will ask you the most bizarre, how do you get out of this? How do you get out of that? they don't look at your size. They see you as the font of all knowledge. You are the person that stands in front.
Yeah.
You are their coach. There's
Yeah.
no, in fact, you know, there's no other coaches above them that, you know, if you mentioned other coaches that teach us, they're meaningless to them, because you are the important
Yeah.
person, and you are there for them. And that's the important thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
and it's a huge responsibility, and it's a huge privilege, isn't it? It's a very humbling position to be. Yeah, very, very much. And it's a responsibility I think we all take very, very seriously, don't we? It's not something.
Totally.
For me, it's, you know, I've been a pharmacist for 20 odd years, but this for me is the most single-handedly satisfying job or career or role I have, you know, apart from being a mum, that because even the young, you know, the teenage students are like your kids, aren't they? You take that responsibility.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And that's why you feel so responsible when you teach them. And I say to I had a student last week. I met up with a mum, socially distanced naturally, and I said to the mum about the student, I said, I've trained her for about 4 years now, and I said, she's seen me at my best. She's seen me at my worst, when I have to deal with the students, the issues on the mats, but she knows that I'm in control, and I help her get to a better place. But that's that thing. And I have these huge kids that come up, and, you know, the teenagers, for all intents and purposes, are adults with, you know, with youthful mentalities. And they trust anything, you know, and I think, God, I'm the same age as your mum, and you're asking me, what would you do if someone held a knife to your throat, and all this kind of stuff. You know, it's about, it comes back to trust. And yes, I agree with you. I was an art director for decades. I'm not even going to tell you how long, because it sounds like I'm 90. But now for me, this is the best job. Teaching is one of the best jobs in the world, you know. And when people come to you, and especially, again, people that we know, again, that are vulnerable, that you know, when they exit your class, they feel better, they learn more, and it's a blessing. And it sounds really corny, doesn't it? It's a privilege. It's great. And I've always said, I always learn. When I teach, I always learn, and that's a great thing.
Yeah. I think for me, like, the biggest thing was when someone turned around and went, I said no for the first time without explaining myself. Yes. And I was like, amazing. Thank you. Because they felt the confidence and they're like, it's changed my life, because I don't feel now pressured to do stuff I don't want to do. And I'm not talking like for myself necessarily, but like in work, being asked to stay late, they're like, no. Or being asked to go out with friends, and they always felt like they had to go and do it. And suddenly they're saying, no, I don't. And it's those little things. And you just, like, for me, I mean, something that I've learned through lockdown is, you know, obviously we've had Zoom and stuff, but being able to speak to people and see their faces and listen, you know, have those stories and stuff is really kind of, when I started to go back to the outside classes, the fire that's reignited, you know, as much as I've loved Zoom, it's actually seeing the, you know, the people in the flesh, and that, like you say, just the fire that comes from teaching, because you know that you're helping people, you know that you're helping them, you're giving them back their power basically in their life, you're helping them to have their voice, to have their confidence, to go forward in the world. I guess you're giving them you're giving them back their power, in my view, because I think, you know, sometimes it's been taken away from people for whatever reasons, whether it's confidence, anxiety, past you know, if people have experienced stuff in the past, it's been taken a bit away from them, and you can't, that feeling, it's just so, watching their faces as they achieve something they thought they could never achieve. You know, they achieve their first grading, or they achieve their first full press up, or they actually, you know, take part in a drill that previously may have scared them, but they do it with confidence. And you just, you know, just seeing them light up, it's just phenomenal. And it's amazing. You know, it makes me happy, so happy to see when people just you know, and I'm not talking about, you know, I'm not talking about them necessarily being top world, you know, just the small changes in body language. They walk in and they confidently say hi to other people in the class. They stand with a proud chest now. They're not kind of hunched over in the corner and not talking to anyone. And, you know, kids, women, men, all of that, you know, it's not just the one, you know, you've got every person from all such different backgrounds and walks of life walking through the classes. And just within a couple of months, you can see they've got a smile on their face, and it's a genuine smile, and they're happy. You know, you can't.
No, it is. And I think we're all very, very, very passionate about what we do, and
yes,
you become extremely emotionally invested in all of your students, don't you? And especially the ones that have, you know, been through something which is, or a terrible sort of background or trauma. And I had one particular student a little while ago, and and a lot of the youngers coming through, it's bullying. It's a real issue out there, isn't it? And she's been in counselling for her bullying, etc., etc. And her mum had forced her to come to these classes, and she's off school now. She's not been in school because of everything that's going on. And she walked in, and I could just see this little girl, and she was just the most timid little. My heart broke for her, literally broke in pieces for her. But you do what you do as a coach, and you've got your mum hat, and you've got your coach hat, and you've got your instructor hat, and you've got all those hats at the same time that you're looking at these vulnerable children often. And the second session, I'd messaged her mum. She goes, she was all right. And second, she goes, she was smiling in the car coming to your lesson, and I have not seen my daughter smile for so many months. And that for me, I could have gone into a corner and cried. It was just like,
no, yeah, absolutely, and too right. Well done. You know, this is the thing, is we must remember that, you know, we are not just teaching people to fight. That's the thing. You're teaching people to stand up and just deal with anything. And I think especially now during COVID, is that the one thing as Krav Maga and has taught me, and I see the people around me, is to adapt to your situation. That's for sure. And resilience, and mental resilience. And then we know it's a very important tool for all of us, and especially kids and teenagers, that the importance of having resilience to get through anything. You know, it's a very important tool. So to be able to teach it, and to have the skills to teach it so quickly, and to see a change like that, is just, it's just the best thing. That's the kind of feedback, is just better than anything, isn't it, really?
Across the board, I don't know how you found it, Sarah and Hannah, but certainly on the Zoom classes, across the board, I think the feedback from a lot of parents has been, keep running these classes. It's the one normality my child has got in their life. It's that one constant, because school's been taken away, friends have been taken away. That normality, so that regularity, you know, on a Monday or a Thursday evening, they're coming to that class. It's keeping them going. It's keeping their week ticking over. And it's about that adapting, isn't it? So even though you're not there with them, you are there with them, and they look at you for that constant, or for that constant regularity that you've become in their lives, and they latch onto it because that's what they know.
And it is, you're right, it's hard. And I have to say, there have been a percentage of students that can't cope with Zoom. They found it very difficult, but not just for what we're doing, but doing anything. I know on schooling has been very difficult. But having that, the one thing I'm getting back is, you know, again, the one thing is that we can bring together is a sense of community, a sense through the training, a sense of routine, which is, as we know, in any stressful time, especially this, you know, there have been plenty of blogs and posts on regarding mindfulness and the importance of exercise, but simply keeping a routine, you know, whatever is the most important thing. But the other thing is that when we stand in front of, we have a positive mindset. And that is, you know, it's contagious, isn't it? And again, having some structure, it's very important. It's not easy. It is definitely not easy, but it's important, again, especially in situations like this. You know, it's what we can do.
Yeah. Sarah, do you mind if I ask you about the women's only camp? So obviously it's run in Holland as well, and it was due to be in the UK in April this year, but sadly due to COVID it was postponed.
So we've been running the camp. So basically it started, I had a conversation with an associate of mine, Grazia, who's a very high level instructor in Holland, and we had a chat at a mixed camp actually, and she said to me, she knows that I'm one of the few, because as you know, I've been running women only training as long as I've been teaching, so I've always pushed the women only stuff. When people thought I was absolutely nuts, which you now know I'm not nuts, a bit nuts, but not a lot nuts. So she said, I've got an idea. And I said, before you tell me anything, the answer is yes. That's what I said before I knew. So basically it was to run a 2.5 day live-in camp in Holland. Okay, so it would be women only training. We have run them successfully. So just the background, for I think we're coming up for our 7th year. We would have been, this is the first time we cancelled. We talked about having them in the UK last year, and Gully was there. We had a great time. We had our first camp in the UK. We will be having one next year. So the ethos behind it was, and I know I said I wasn't going to use any swearing at all, but Grazia's favourite line is, we just train, no bitching on, no whining. Okay, so you just turn up and you train. So it is, it is a very structured weekend. We find these amazing places to stay in Holland, and we have 2-3 hour workshops on different subjects. They can be striking, combat, dealing with weapons, you name it. It's any related physical self-defense. Plus we also run verbal stuff, so dealing with conflict communication, anything like that, anything regards to the subjects that we need to keep us safe. We also bring in other instructors and have talks. I've done talks myself on coercive control, etc., and subjects that people don't really know much about, but there are issues that we face. The food is great. As I said, the training is hard. The food is great. The camaraderie and the bond is just undescribable. There are a core crew that have been coming to them every year. We have special T-shirts for the camps that people are desperate to get hold of. And that is it really. When we hold them in Holland, it is predominantly a Dutch contingency, and they bring food with, so there's a ridiculous amount of food. And it's funny actually, because at one of the first camps that we ran, when they heard that it was a women only camp, they put on just a pitiful amount of food, thinking that we would just be pushing salad around a plate. Then the complaints came in on the second day, we need more grub, basically. They had to feed them. So what can I say? It's a great training, but what makes it special is the camaraderie between the students. That is, and Gully, have you been to the UK camps where they're mixed? Have you been to the UK mixed?
Yeah, so the ones KMG run, yeah. So that in it, and having been to those, and I came to the Women's Only UK one that we did last year. It's a very different vibe in terms of the camaraderie, and that's very key, I think, to the women's one. Hannah, I can't tell you how good it is. The training is phenomenal. It really is. Well, we had Grazia, we had Sarah teaching, we had Susan from Scotland, head of Scotland Women's teaching. It is real fabulous training. It's some of the best training I've done. Really, really well. But there's fabulous, the food was great, wasn't it? We had a great place to stay. And in the evenings we get together, and there was wine flowing, there was chocolate flowing in abundance. We had apples.
It's what you want. Krav Maga and Prosecco, Hannah. Come on now.
Sounds perfect.
It was brilliant. And it's the women that make it, isn't it, Sarah? There was a fantastic... There was a fair few that in fact, the Holland contingency came, didn't they? The Dutch contingency came. We had a few from the UK, somebody from Finland. So from all of... And just to be honest, we had Tia coming from Egypt, didn't we? So to have the experience of not only instructors mixed in with the students, but just women, and that's what ultimately was. It was a group of women. So
I'm
yeah.
proud. I'm proud of them. I'm really proud of them, and I'm proud of the fact that Grazia and I, we're planning next year's already. We plan the training down to the training works and flows. That's the thing. We don't do anything for nothing. You know, everything is planned. We take different components of our different subjects, from extremely physical to problematic, to dealing with verbal stuff. So it is all very important. A lot of the stuff they could, again, like I say, it would go across the board, but we are for men and women. But of course, it's a women-only camp. We focus on the issues. This is not, and we do have subjects that are quite difficult to deal with. The training is enjoyable. It is tough.
And it's very relevant for women, and it's training I've taken back into my lessons, and I've taken aspects of that,
right.
Sarah, absolutely, and taught back
right.
in my women's and teenage class. And it's training I've not come across before in my regular classes or even in the mixed camps, because it was so women relevant that to teach it as a specific subject in my classes was fantastic. So yeah, taken lots from that. It's been great, absolutely brilliant. Hannah, you've got to start. It's the best. It really is the best.
Yeah, well, hopefully the new date, when it gets released, I can plug it in my diary.
Well,
and
we've got the spring camp in April, but obviously we've got the end of year. I haven't finalised the dates but it should be September. I want to find out what else is going on. They're fun to teach. They're fun to do. As I say, I've been working with Grazia. We are like Thelma and Louise, except we don't drive off a cliff. That's all I can say.
I mean, you had me on Prosecco, to be honest. Like,
look, I'm just to be clear, there's not a much. There's a lot of fizzy water and chocolate.
There is.
We do not promote uncontrolled behaviour.
I'm not uncontrolled. I never go to updates or drink. I'm not known for that, Sarah. I'm known for controlled behaviour.
Will you keep that in this podcast? I don't know. But yes, it's great, and as I said, it's been something we've talked about for ages. And and it's funny, the whole concept of women only. I actually recently, not struggle is not the right word. I don't like using it. I tend to use more design for women now, because like I said, I've had this thing, and it's been the youngest. I want the same. I want to be included. I'm always battled with that idea. Why can't I do it? Why can't I be the same? And I think for me, and I've never wanted to wear a badge that says this or that. For me, it's a conflict. But of course, how else are we going to keep certain people out? We have to call it that. We have to say women only, and that is it.
Yeah, there were some very jealous male students, weren't there?
Oh, always. Legally, I'm obligated to say, of course, if you're a fella, you are welcome to join. Yeah. However, no one's
stepped up yet. It does sound good, and it's something that I'm, absolutely. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make last year's due to.
No, you had stuff going on, so that was fine.
But
more opportunities. That's all I can say.
And it's nice to, like you say, build the community. I really like the fact women standing together, rather than against, which is sometimes a big thing. And it has been, it's more, you look at social media and stuff like that. It can become quite competitive, and it's really nice to actually, like you say, have that spirit of we're all in this together. We're gonna get a bit sweaty. We're gonna get a bit hot. We're gonna learn some great self-defense, and then we're all gonna go and eat some cake and have some fizzy water and have a laugh about it, afterwards and stuff like that. And like you say, having the leads in and saying, this isn't about competing against each other. It's about growing together. It's about, coming together and, learning what we can, and then taking that back into our lives or into our clubs or whatever. It sounds really positive. Super
and what's
exciting.
Interesting, sorry Hannah, what's interesting is one of the first we had a couple of years ago, we had AL the Analog come along. We had a very big, they came along and sort of stuck our camp on the map, and we had the women's leads from all the countries. And as we went round the table, it was something that I noted. Everyone, and this is the leads, this is the heads, this isn't other instructors or students, no one mentioned their level. They just when they had talked about themselves, they mentioned their name, their experience, and what country, but not their grade or level. It was not mentioned. It was not important, and that was something that really stuck out for me. That is very important. It was not relevant then. It wasn't about measuring things, you know.
No.
It was about community.
Yeah. Well, that's it. You have a gift to give at the end of the day, and that's what it is, isn't it? Is you're giving your gift to other people, and again, I think that idea that I'm not don't want to, maybe I shouldn't say this, but sometimes people put their patches on and they think they're above people on a human level, and I'm like, no, hang on a second, you may have a little bit more knowledge than me, but you're not, you know, just here to give your knowledge. Surely you're not about. But
absolutely.
Yeah. It's nice to hear that that isn't present, because I think that can be quite off-putting, if I'm honest. So to hear that that is that equal footing, and yes, absolutely, you have your instructors, and of course they have a knowledge that they're there to share with you to help you improve. But in terms of, you know, there's no this, like you say, it's not relevant in terms of.
It wasn't relevant then. And of course there is a place for it. I wouldn't diss it, of course. And what, you know, a lot of people like to monitor, etc., etc. But right then and right there, it was something that I noted that it was about common goals. That's the thing. So a bit cheesy. But
sounds brilliant. And looking forward to that then being released. It'd be nice to have some training as well.
What, you mean after all this? Yes.
Yeah, quite a year, 2020.
Doesn't exist. And like I said, if you have a birthday, you stay a year younger. So it's okay.
Yeah, I had a birthday on the 29th of March. I think we've been in a week coming up, and it was like, yeah, this doesn't count. I'm not a year older right now. It doesn't count. I'm still a year behind. Take
the gifts. But that's it.
Yeah.
So just to obviously finish, because it'd be great just to hear, obviously for you going forward and stuff like that. Obviously we've got the women's only camp, which is amazing. Gully, what sort of plans have you got in place as well going forward? Obviously lockdown, COVID-19 is obviously disrupted a little bit, but in terms of where you see going forward, what kind of stuff have you got coming up for you in the club?
Yeah, so in a way, the disruption of the stopgap, and it's something we were talking about just earlier together, it's been a nice time to sort of step back and sort of reconsider where the club's going and what we want to do, and sort of recap. And I think when you get busy and you're teaching all the time and it's constantly going, you're on this sort of treadmill and you keep going, and it's and because it's working, you don't change it. But and a change is always good. I think it's always good to step back and sort of say, right, I could do with changing this, and this needs improving, and this will be better for my sort of students and my club. So it's been a nice time to sort of sit back and recollect things and see why I started this and where I want to go with it and how I want to run it. So that's been nice. So going forward, yeah, I mean, I've only, as a club, I've only been going for a year, and we're still a very young club, and of that we've been shut down for 3 months. So it's very, very early days. But going forward, absolutely, doing the women's classes. I want to start some daytime classes, often for women, that for them to come out at night or in the evening for sort of childcare issues, or, you know, if they're on their own or they're single parents, they can't always do evening classes, or they don't have those. So daytime class is something I'm really looking at, see how they run. I think there's a real need, I think, for daytime classes, or for those women that can't make those evening classes. So yeah, daytime classes, springing forward with those, bringing lots of new knowledge in, and speaking to other women like yourself, Hannah, and Sarah, and getting that knowledge and seeing what works, and not for your own gain and not for your own sort of credentials, but just some knowledge you can spread and do better, and be a better coach for your students to make them better. And I know you do loads of the strong stuff, and I've been watching you on sort of social media, and it's a fantastic element of the self-defense and the learning and the confidence, just to feel stronger and be stronger. So that's something, we'll speak together, and that's something I'd love to start involving in the women, because why not? Why as women do, you know, would you not do weights and kettlebells and just increase your fitness, and just you feel stronger today? And I know, Hannah, when I've seen you, when you've done your kettlebells and you've done your weights, you stand taller and you feel stronger. You're like, yeah, I've just done that. And it's often something that's a forte that's not for women, isn't it? And if women have never gone into a gym or don't want to go into a male-orientated gym where everyone's doing big weights and barbells, to be able to have it from a woman or learn it from a woman is fantastic. It's phenomenal. So yeah, absolutely. So little things like that going forward, taking really valuable stuff from other women, and being able to put that forward to my students, and just be a better club for women so that they learn better and the students get better. And that's ultimately for me what it's about. So yeah, so lots of little ideas going forward, taking as long as we don't have a second wave and we're all shut down again.
No.
Yeah. So
I think for me as well, again, being part of a big club, I'm sort of trying to organise stuff there. But personally, again, with my teaching, as you say, it's been an opportunity to look at the gaps, to look at things actually, how can I improve it? How can I make it better? And I think that's it. It's been a good opportunity. And again, keep adapting and moving forward and getting better. And learning from everybody, being able to share stuff has been good, but also picking ideas. I think the one thing I've been able to say is, as an instructor that's done this a long time, I've been able to say, my advice is keep moving forward, keep following your path. Any mistakes I've made, I'll tell you them so you don't make them. That's the thing, really.
Absolutely.
Don't stop.
Yeah, I mean, Sarah, I think from day one when I met you as an instructor, obviously you're women's lead, and I've always looked up to you, and a lot of us, all of us do, not a lot of us do, all of us do.
That's because I'm taller than you.
Yeah. But one thing you'd always said to me is, I've made the mistakes, Gully, and I'll tell you them, so you don't make them. And to have another woman on your side to say that to you is just like, it's priceless. It's absolutely priceless. So it's, and you don't see it as a competition, and that's something that's great. And we talk about the camaraderie. No. We're not competing. It's about being better and getting better, isn't it? And absolutely grateful and thankful for women like you, Sarah, and for Gracie as well, to forward that knowledge, impart that knowledge that you have, so that we can
and for me, having you, it's great. I'm not on my own. Come, get more, bring more. Let's do it. That's the important thing. And I think, the one thing, other martial arts, it's very much, I'm here at the top. You can never be as good as me. I'm special. And I think for us, it's all about, like I've said, we're just, it's something that I've heard and I use all the time. We're just messengers. We're just passing on information. I need you to be better than me. That's the most important thing. And it's great that we all have, we have a lot of common ground, that we're able to share stuff like this, and move forward.
I mean, for me, actually, I echo Gully on what she said. I mean, when I was first setting up 2 years ago, Sarah was someone I turned to a lot for advice, and the confidence that you gave me to keep going and to be like, I'd talk about certain things with you, and you were like, no, you're going to keep on your path and stuff. And every time I'm like faltering, because sometimes my messages are slightly different across my crowd. I use it a lot for the mental health side as well. And I'm like, don't falter. This is what you want to do. If at the end of the day, this is where your heart is, and it's those words that you've said, follow your path. The world doesn't need another X, Y, and Z. Your path is your path. And I think that's having somebody like you. And then now we can, like you say, we can come together. There's Gully, there's me, there are other people, but we can pull together and share that message and help encourage people forward. So having you has been, like I say, invaluable over the last couple of years.
But I have to say, every day I wake up and go, follow your path. Because it never gets easier, does it? But when something, when things happen, and one goes, come on, Sarah, this is, keep going. Remember why you're doing it. Keep moving. Don't let them get to you. Keep going.
But, it's phenomenal, and it's great that we've, like you say, the support is there now. We're building and networking. Gully, I've spoken to you, Sarah, I speak to you, we've spoken to today. I say this all the time, my door's always open. I say I don't have the experience of you, Sarah, like you do have.
Don't say it's not. That's not true. It's not true. I won't have it. It's not true. We're all valuable, and we've all got. That's the thing. Having, the most important thing, as we know, as what makes us, what is, I would say as an instructor, you're part coach, you're a diplomat, a psychologist, and a therapist, aren't you? And the most important thing that we all do is that we listen. and that's invaluable. Having someone that you know just listens and doesn't judge is that's key in it.
Yeah,
really,
absolutely. Well, I'm gonna say thank you very much. What I'll do is stop the recording and then we can have a little chat at the end. But massive thank you for you both for coming on today and speaking, and you know, just sharing your views. It's been really, really great to talk and to just what I'll do is I'll get this sorted and sent out. So I'm gonna say goodbye now on the recording. I'll stop the recording, then we can have a quick chat at the end. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And speak to you soon.
All right. Thanks so much. Thank you, ladies.